afternoon, Stuart. You're listening to Meet McBiz. I'm Frank Mezzapelle, and I am joined today with Mark Mraz from Mraz.
Ron Mraz.
Did I say Mike?
Mark.
Ron.
Where did Mark come from?
I don't know.
We know each other,
Ron.
Frank.
I don't know. I had a brain aneurysm or something. Ron Mraz from Magic Bubbles. And so you are our guest here today. We're going to talk about Magic Bubbles. And Ron spoke before our MCBE group this morning, and we learned a little bit more about the process of what he does. He's got this incredible truck, and you're going to talk about that, right?
Absolutely.
During this hour. He's got lots to cover, lots to do. And welcome, Ron.
Well, thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
How are you today? And
I'm well. Thank you for asking.
I'm happy to be here and looking forward to the show. And
yeah.
And I'm wondering where the cold weather came in. You know, I used to be in Ohio, and I
Right.
left Ohio to
avoid
this weather.
Right.
And I woke up to 40-degree weather this morning. So I have to maybe have to go further south. I don't know.
Well, you know, ironically, this is unusual in that generally the last 2 weeks of January, we get this kind of weather. You know, first week of February, it's always, you know, you'll get a cold front will roll through, and then it's warm again. You know, 70s. You know, but we'll be 80s again this weekend.
Yep.
But you work outside, so you are temperature sensitive to both heat and cold.
Not only do I work outside, but I work outside with water. So getting wet and cold is not a good thing.
No.
So fortunately, it may start out at 40, but today it warmed up quite nicely. So it was pleasant outside.
Yes, it was very nice. Yeah, it was a good day to play hooky.
There you go.
So tell us a little bit about Magic Bubbles and your association with it. It's a company it's a franchise company, right?
That's correct. So Magic Bubbles started in Jupiter, Florida about 8 years ago.
All right.
The gentleman who started it eventually grew the company south of Jupiter, moved his office to the Lake Worth area. And then at some point in about 2016, he decided he wanted to start franchising the system. So in addition to myself, there's several other individuals that own franchises, and it covers everywhere from Dade, Broward, Royal Palm, a couple areas in Tampa. And my location is northern Palm Beach County, which is Tequesta and Jupiter Farms, all of Martin County, and all of St. Lucie County.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a lot of territory.
Yeah, it's quite a large territory, but you know, one of my concerns was you have
a big fuel tank, so you can go, you can travel. Yes.
I actually keep track of how much money I spend every day in gas, and it's a pretty decent average. But you know, one of my concerns was how much am I driving compared to some of the other franchisees with a closer knit area, and it turns out that they're driving about the same as I'm driving, so it works out well.
Yeah, good. So what does Magic Bubbles do?
So Magic Bubbles is a pressure cleaning company. We do commercial and residential services. During our meeting this morning, I kind of went through all the things we do, and you know, I asked my attendees or my group members there to imagine a dirty roof and a clean roof.
Yes, and this is your slideshow. In your mind only slideshow.
Use your imagination slideshow.
Yes.
It's a special version of PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So you know, so
and
what?
It's in color too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, it's whatever you want it to be. So you know, everything that a pressure cleaner does. So we do roof cleanings. It is low pressure roof cleaning, so we're not damaging your roof with a high pressure solution. Yes.
Yeah.
House washes, building washes, driveways, patios, pool decks. I've done fences. I've done boat docks. I've done barns, horse barns, horse trailers. She said, "Well, you're here. Can you do our horse trailer?" I said, "Sure." So, you know, anything that you think that you could pressure clean, that needs cleaning, that can be pressure cleaned, we have done it or will look at doing it. In addition to residential work, I do a lot of commercial work. I've recently done a lot of work for homeowner associations or property owner associations here in Martin County and in St. Lucie County. And, you know, so one of the neighborhoods was about 5.5 miles of sidewalk. My crew and I got that taken care of for that community. And then another was about another 5 miles of sidewalks.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely keeping us busy. And
yeah, and of course, one of the things that you mentioned too is the program that you can sign up for as a customer of Magic Bubbles, so that they can see you with some frequency.
yes,
And it's a good discount. It's a good deal.
yeah, absolutely. We have our Magic Bubbles membership program, and basically what that is regular visits to your home or business,
Or sidewalk.
or sidewalk, yeah, or community. I have
Yeah.
one community that is signed up on a recurring basis. The discounts are slightly different for residential versus commercial, but for residential customers, it's a 40% discount off of our retail prices. We visit your home every 6 months. Once a year we clean the roof. Every other time that we come to your place, we do everything else that you would want done. So generally that's a house wash, patio, pool deck, screen enclosure, driveway. But if you have other things like a dock or a fence that you want included in that, we can certainly do that as well.
Sure. And one of the other group members this morning talked about water stains on their house, their buildings, right? And you run across that, and I thought your answer was pretty good about how you treat those issues, those areas.
The rust stains. So yeah, one of the things that we also will treat is rust and or oil stains or any kind of grease stains. So I do some work for restaurants where there's grease that we deal with. But a lot of times with residential customers and commercial, you're using well water to water or irrigate your landscaping. Right. And you'll see, the marks that are left by the water hitting the house.
Right.
So we use products that are rust removers, like an acid-based product. When it's on the side of the house, it doesn't have much of an opportunity to penetrate, so it cleans up fairly well. When it's on a flat surface, like your sidewalk or a driveway, it's more difficult to get up because it has the opportunity to sit for a long time. The material, concrete or pavers or things like that, are very porous, so the water gets through that, and that staining also becomes part of the concrete. So makes it difficult to get up. Not impossible. It may take several treatments, but I've seen situations where it has just gone on for so long that you see it lighten up, but it doesn't completely take the stain out. So one of the things I'm always telling customers, when people ask questions, it's we can do that. However, expect to see some remnants of that. Just
because the driveway is masonry is nothing more than a rigid sponge.
Correct.
So the stain is on top. It's in the middle,
and it's working its way to the bottom.
Yes. So it is. So drawing it out is a difficult process.
Correct. And that's the same with oil and grease-based stains as well. So they tend to get into the concrete. We use industrial style degreasers to help lift that out.
Right.
And it does just that. So the stain will lighten up on top, but over time it will rise back up again. So it's a situation where get to it as quickly as you can if you notice it with respect to rust or oil. And then if it's been there for a long time, expect to treat it more than once to help it go away.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Very good. All right. And so tell our listeners about your vehicle, because you spent a little time this morning talking about your truck, which is kind of unique. So
Magic Bubbles, again, is a franchised operation. So we have probably 5 or 6 franchisees, and there's probably between all of us, maybe 12 or more territories that they cover. So myself, I have 2 territories. There's other franchisees that have even more than that. So we have
they have more trucks.
They have more trucks as well. Yeah. So we have a fleet of trucks, and I hope that everybody listening has seen the awesome Magic Bubbles truck. But the truck itself is a Isuzu NPR truck. It's got a 14-foot bed on it. It has a 1,000-gallon water tank, a 250-gallon chemical tank. In addition to that, has an air compressor that runs a couple pumps that deliver the chemicals where we need them, whether it's the roof or the side of your house or that dock. And then on the back, we have 3 22 horsepower Honda pressure washers. So each of those units can pump out 8 gallons per minute. So we,
Wow.
when we do these sidewalk jobs that I mentioned, is 5.5 miles of sidewalk. And if I've got 3 guys running at the same time, we're going through that 1,000 gallons of water in about an hour and a half to
Wow.
2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So,
amazing.
well, you think that's 24 gallons of water per minute that if you got all 3 machines running.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it goes fast, unfortunately.
Right.
And that's actually a fun fact that we did Orchid Bay. I think that neighborhood, we were there for 4 days doing it. And we used 10,000 gallons of water in that 4-day time period.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a lot of water.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Well, there's so you got tell our listeners, I don't know, about your specials again. How does that work? And do you have anything particular about the holidays that?
Yeah, fortunately, business is very good. So, call early, and we'll get you on a schedule as soon as we can. I think we're currently booking for January. However, we have cancellations from time to time, and sometimes we'll finish a larger job early, and we'll open that day up. So call us. We'll try our best to squeeze you in. Specials I have. We generally run some regular specials. $25 off of a single service, $50 off of 2 or more services. And if you're doing a whole house package, which would be the roof, the house wash, patio, driveway, we have $100 off for that.
Right.
And then
and that makes sense. I don't mean to interrupt you, but starting with the roof is so important because so much of your dirt and mildew and mold, and we should talk about mold too.
Yeah.
Starts at the roof.
It certainly does.
And up north where you and I are from, the notion of mold being on a roof is a head scratcher. Yeah. And you would think that we wouldn't have it down here because of the sunlight, but yet we do because of the humidity.
We have it through the humidity. So if you ever notice your roof, and you'll notice that there's areas that are darker than others when it is dirty. You'll probably also notice that there is a nice tree there providing shade.
Yes.
So the algae that grows on a roof, a lot of people say mold, but typically it's a form of black algae that grows on a roof. Is just loves that warm, moist environment. And the longer that an area of the roof stays wet in that environment, the more of an opportunity the algae has to grow.
Yes.
So the roof is a perfect place for that. And the south side, the most exposure usually is not as dirty as the north or least sun exposure areas.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But starting with the roof makes sense because once that gets clean, because if you just leave the roof dirty and clean the walls, the mold or the mildew rolls down from the roof.
Yeah,
and it'll get the rest of the house dirty a lot quicker.
Yeah, we see that typically at the bottom of where the wall meets the ground is where we see that a lot, because past the drip edge of the roof, the water splashes back up, and all that goes right back onto the house.
Right.
So you'll see an area, from maybe the first floor windows down, where the algae is much more prominent than it is elsewhere. But again, even on walls, the side of walls is a great place for shaded areas, and that's where the algae takes hold. The other thing about house washes is the things that people love, the creepy crawlies, the spiders, the wasp nests, bees, seen it all. We take down wasp nests all the time. People say, hey, while you're here, can you get that? And they're stubborn. It's amazing. There's a little tiny stem that holds the wasp nest, and these nests can be fairly large in diameter, but that little stem is, I don't know what kind of super glue nature has provided wasp, but it stays on there so well that we even have trouble getting it off with high pressure water and chlorine. And we'll talk about chlorine in a minute.
Yes.
But it's so the house wash is great. I've had people comment to me that they're interested in getting their house painted. And then we do the house wash for them, and they say, well, maybe I'll wait a year, so I don't know if they actually mean that or not. Well, but in some cases it makes a substantial difference.
Right. Yeah. Because when the house when it's dirty, it looks dirty and tired, and you can't always identify the difference between soiled paint and paint that needs to be freshened up with a fresh coat.
Right.
And once you've cleaned it, if it was properly painted, and a good paint job should last with premium products 6 to 8 years, ideally. Perfect, ideal.
Yeah.
But down here, those numbers generally skew on the lower side because maybe they're not always applied in the best products or in the best application methods, and so then you have to deal with that when you clean it. So if the paint comes off, then you go, oh, okay, well, they're ready for a repaint.
Yeah, and we do see that. I can definitely tell a good paint job versus a bad one.
Right.
But more of what I see is old versus new.
Yes.
And when it's old, you can see that it starts to get chalky. You'll notice that again, we use bleach, and it does tend to lighten the color of the paint a bit, and you notice that a lot when the paint is old. So
Right.
we take precautions against that because when we're doing house washes, we spray with water, just plain water. Then we'll use our cleaning solution, and then it works very quickly. So we can almost immediately wash that cleaning solution off.
It doesn't linger.
So correct.
Right.
It doesn't have the opportunity to sit long and cause any issues.
Right. Yeah. So we got about 5-6 minutes before we have to go to break. So let's talk a little bit about the chemicals you use and how you use them.
Yeah. So we tend to say chlorine because it's easy to say.
Because it has that chlorine smell to it.
It has the chlorine smell to it, but what we actually use is a product made from chlorine, which is bleach, or the technical name is sodium hypochlorite. And if you go to your pool supply store or you have a pool, your pool supply guy is bringing that to you to service your pool if you have a chlorine pool. And I just did it again. Or if you get it yourself, everybody's familiar down here with those 2.5 gallon yellow jugs. So our cleaning solution is a mixture of that sodium hypochlorite or bleach and water.
Right.
And then, if you want to
about a 10% solution, is that about?
Yeah. So it comes from the supplier at 12.5%. And then when we mix it with water, that cuts it. So if we cut it 50%, you're down to 6 3/4 or whatever the number is.
Good. Yeah. Right.
And then, so if you look at your bottle of Clorox, you'll notice that that's probably about 8% solution of sodium hypochlorite and other stuff to make it smell a little bit different.
Right. Yeah. They actually add wetteners and extenders in there. Otherwise, it would just evaporate away.
Right. And that's the other thing that's important to note. Thank you for saying that, because when they use chlorine in your pool, they put additives along with the chlorine, stabilizers, to help that chlorine last longer.
Yeah.
So that's something as a pressure cleaner you don't want done.
Right.
You want the bleach to do its thing.
Right.
And then you want it to go away, which it does naturally.
Right.
So the odor is there, but it's
no longer active.
It's no longer active. Correct.
Right.
So that's the cleaning solution that we use. And the method, again, that we talked about, low pressure roof cleaning.
Yeah.
When we get up on a roof, and we do access the roof, and I can talk about roofs as well. We do get up on a roof if it's a tile roof or an asphalt shingle roof, and we use the air compressor I mentioned earlier along with a process pump. It's called a diaphragm pump, and it's a special pump that's made to handle the bleach. And what that does is that pumps it up to our wand that we use, and we spray low pressure, almost misting on this cleaning solution.
Right.
And what it does,
a little bit like a garden sprayer would do.
Yeah, even less than that. I mean,
Wow.
it's just a light mist to get the surface wet. And once the surface is wet, and it's not even wet to the point where it's dripping, it does eventually drip off the edge, but it's because of all the buildup from the top down. So that solution does its work on the algae that's on the roof. And that's the one case where we're not really, if the house has gutters, we're putting that solution on and we're letting it go, and it stays, it's done. If the house doesn't have gutters, we are putting it on and then we're rinsing it after the fact. And that's just because we don't want, if it happened to rain shortly after we left, that's the kind of sweet spot that we don't want to happen.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. as far as other things, we talked about the house wash where we're wetting it first.
Yes, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I used to live in Fresno, right? and I was amazed because they used, airless sprayers, back in the 70s. They would just, fairly new, the Banks and Graco pumps. They would spray the paint on at 1700 PSI, right?
Wow.
But they would take these stucco buildings like we have here, but they would hose them down with water first because the environment is so dry. They had to get that paint to have any kind of a wet edge. They had to wet the stucco first.
Really?
So coming from Michigan, it was like, wow, that was a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, that seems counterintuitive.
Intuitive,
Yeah,
yes. but it in that environment, it actually works quite well. It's the only way they could get it because when the paint explodes out of an airless at 1700 psi, when it strikes the surface, it's almost dry.
Yeah,
just through that process. And so to help it along by putting water on the building, it just gives it that wet edge so that the paint could properly coalesce and dry onto the substrate.
Interesting.
So,
we, in addition to pressure cleaning, we also do paver sealing. So I use an airless sprayer for that. And depending on the product, so we use a water-based product.
But you can adjust your airless too. Yes.
Correct. And if you like, it's a combination of tip and pressure.
Yes.
Because when I first switched from xylene based to water based, it was a learning curve for me. I'm like, I'm going to try this product, and I was like in a cloud of water based product.
Well,
and I was like, I need to
dial this back.
Right.
Yeah.
And the xylene is just a little bit more viscous, I guess you could say.
Yes, a much thinner, a lighter viscosity.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it didn't have that issue, but
interesting stuff. Well, we've managed to burn through an entire half hour, and we've got to check with our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We'll have much more to cover when we return. So stick with us. Now it's time for today's Southeast AgNet Report, which is brought to you by Everglades Farm Equipment, a family-owned business for the past 50 years with 10 Florida locations, including Fort Pierce, Okeechobee, and Loxahatchee. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Did I mention I was from Detroit, Motown?
I think you have.
Yeah. Well, Berry Gordy was born on this date. Make it to the right screen here. He was born on this date in 1929. And he was referred to as a recording executive, but he's one of the guys responsible for what we know today as Motown.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And this is just one of the many songs that Berry Gordy produced.
Oh.
So,
I know the song.
Yes, of course. Even though it may have been a little bit ahead of your time, right?
Just a bit.
Yeah.
I was going to say my grandmother was born in 1919, so
Yeah.
10 years on it. But,
Right.
that kind of puts me where.
And my son, he likes the oldies. He even he's got a Frank Sinatra albums.
Yeah. I like to tune to the oldie station from time to time.
Yeah.
I like some big band music as well.
Oh
too.
yeah. Yeah, Tex Beneke, Glenn Miller. Yep. Yeah, all those guys. Yeah, very cool. Excellent stuff. Yep. It's who else was born on this date? Nobody of any. John Stewart was born on this date in 1962.
John Stewart.
Yeah, like I said, nobody of note. Did I say that?
I don't think I heard that. Right out loud?
Oh. In 1984, on this date, Republican Robert Dole was elected the Senate Majority Leader.
Ah.
So
then went on to not become president.
yes. Yes, but neat guy. He's a well known and respected, both sides of the aisle.
Absolutely.
Quality guy. Yeah. The Anglican Church ordained its first 2 women as priests on this date in the year 1971.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think Catholics haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, no. No. But I will say there's a lot of anomalous things that's happened in the Catholic Church in the recent years.
Yeah.
So when that happened, there were a lot of priests that left the Anglican Church, and there were other, I think, Episcopal Church that ordained women as priests, right?
Yeah.
When that happened, they switched teams.
Yeah.
These male priests, and they studied and became Catholic priests.
So,
and some of them were married.
I recall. That,
and
actually.
So there are married Catholic priests to this day.
Because they were kind of like
they're holdovers.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
But,
grandfathered in, I was going to say.
Yeah, grandfathered. Yeah. So it's just kind of quirky things in history. I love all that quirky stuff in history.
That's very interesting. I definitely recall that. But I'd forgotten completely about it.
Right, but that's my head. Noodle with useless facts.
Well, the internet's a beautiful thing because it reminds you of all that stuff you've forgotten.
Exactly. Well, we want to cover a few more things. You wanted to talk some more about roofs?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that, we obviously do tile and cement tile roofs. Mm-hmm. Some of the roofs we don't walk on because people always ask, do you get up on the roof or not? So if you have a metal roof, we generally do not get up on metal roofs. And the reason is they're slippery when they're dry. I've seen
they're
metal
insanely
roofs.
Slippery when they're wet.
Yes. Yeah. And if there's dust on the metal roof, even if it's dry, it tends to be slippery.
It's like marbles.
Yeah,
Zing.
pretty much. They're very, very tiny marbles.
Yeah.
And then when they're wet, they're even worse. So if it's a low enough pitch, we may be able to do it. But generally, we'll put a ladder next to the house, and we have tips to get our cleaning solution to where we need to reach it, and then rinse it off. So, but we do clean metal roofs. We just don't necessarily go up on them. And then asphalt shingles. They get dirty as well. They seem to take longer to get dirty, but they can be cleaned. And
there's actually a fungicide, milicide that they impart in the granular impression when they put it into the asphalt tile. Yeah, shingle.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, lost my train of thought there.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Anyway, they tend to streak. They get dirty different than a tile roof gets dirty. A tile roof will just over time just get black everywhere.
Yeah.
The asphalt shingle roofs tend to have streaking on them, and I think it's probably mostly where water is running more like streaming or draining off than anything else. And then obviously tile roofs. The one tile that we try to avoid is Spanish tile. And I don't mean that we don't clean it. I mean, we don't get up on the roof because the tile is
very brittle,
and it tends to be slippery as well because they're glazed tile. And then white roofs that are glazed. A lot of the white roof tiles are glazed. So they tend to get slippery as well.
Right.
And again, it's just something that we can still clean. We just do it from the ground or from a ladder instead of getting up on the roof. And it's for safety reasons.
Oh yeah, safety reason. And you're doing a better job. The less likely you're going to damage or crack those tiles.
Yeah. And
a lot of people don't realize, but those tiles are just more for display. The actual roof is underneath those tiles.
Right. I once said to a customer, yeah, those tiles are just decorative. And I said, I paid all that money for decoration.
Yes.
And I said, no. I said, the real roof is the substrate, the plywood and the tar paper and everything they put on that to seal it. The tile on top of that is to protect that roof. So it's, and then I always point out the weep holes underneath the tile. If you notice, everywhere there's a line of weep holes, and those holes are there so that any water that gets underneath the tile is running off the top of the sealed plywood, your sealed roof, and that's a way for it to escape. So that's correct.
Yeah, you don't want to have lingering water. It's never a good thing.
And then I guess with respect to roofs, a lot of people ask, can you take a look at my roof? Let us know if there's any damage up there. And we're always happy to do that. And then the other question I get too is, will you break any tiles on my roof? We always try not to do that. So I got a guy working for me. It's been doing pressure cleaning for Magic Bubbles for nearly 8 years. He knows where to walk. He does a great job, and we don't damage tiles. So.
Very good. Very good. And you're licensed and insured, worst case scenario, but hopefully you never have to call up.
Yeah, obviously things do happen.
Yes.
You never say never, but yeah, we are licensed and insured, and we always work with our customers to make sure that we take care of any issues. And we talked earlier about the truck that I have.
Yes.
And one of the things, people have seen the truck and say, I had you out here because I said that, they said, I saw that truck and it's got to be a professional operation. And we certainly are that. And the reason for the truck is to show just that. We want folks to know that when we get there, we're going to do the job right. When we leave, if they call us back, we're going to be there to answer the call, whether it's to have us come back out for service, or if there is some concern that the customer has, we're going to be there to take care of it.
Right. And they don't have to be home for you to perform that service at that home.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions, and some homeowners want to be home. They want to see what we're doing. They want to be there, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're busy, and a lot of us are busy with everything in life today, with the kids or doctor's appointments or going to the beach for that matter, you don't need to be home. We never have to access the inside of your home. The only thing we do access is a water source when we get there, and we can do all of the cleaning without you having to be there. And we accept payment. You can leave the check there, or call us up and pay over the phone, or you can pay online as well.
Yeah. So make it very easy for them to submit the payment.
Yeah. Actually, one of our fellow Martin County Business Exchange members, John Campion, constantly goes on about how easy it is to do business with Magic Bubbles. And John, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We have he always jokes that you don't even have to talk to anybody, and you don't. We love talking to people though, but you can literally get a quote online, get that quote back from our staff and accept that quote. And when we're done with the job, you can go pay online. So if you're not home, you may never even talk to us or see us, but you'll trust that the job will be done and everything will be taken care of. And but if you do want to talk to somebody, we have a very pleasant staff, and just a shout out to Lauren, who is my girl in the office. I get great comments about her all the time. Super friendly and super helpful.
Yep.
She will always make sure you get what you need and the job gets taken care of. Right.
We've got maybe 3 minutes before we have to go to break. So a couple of things we want to cover. I want to make sure your listeners get your phone number.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's 772-210-1136.
Right. And when you go online and you ask for an estimate, one of the things that that Ron does, which I think is really pretty cool, is you use Google Earth, right?
Yeah, we use Google Maps, and we also use the property appraiser's website. So I make a lot of use of the Martin County appraiser's website,
Sure.
as well as the St. Lucie County property appraiser's website. And if you guys are familiar with that site,
they have an aerial picture of the house.
Yeah, and actually you can go back in time too. So they have aerials from 2018, 17, 16, 15, all the way back to when they started doing the aerials. But in addition to that, they have all the dimensions of the house. They have any improvement that has been done to the house.
Right.
So it's a great way to go out and look and see and help us quote. And then Google Maps is just a good way to look at the house from an aerial
street
perspective.
View. Yeah.
And a street view if it's not in an HOA. But those two tools together, really what it adds up to is that we don't have to come to your home to give you an estimate. So we don't have to waste your time, coming out and telling you what it's going to be and then coming back at a later date to do the work. We can just take care of you, get your quote done online, and get the work scheduled and go from there. So it's a great time saver, and it helps us be more competitive in the market.
All right. Give out that phone number one more time.
Magic Bubbles Pressure Cleaning, 772-210-1136.
Okay, so stick with us. We'll have much more when we come back. It is 5:46 right now. If you're looking to be somewhere by 6 o'clock, you've got a little over 15 minutes.
Get going now.
And we'll get you there safely anyways. But this is Meet McBiz. And this is a product of the Martin County Business Exchange. And this is the radio show associated with that. And our featured guest today is Ron Mraz from Magic Bubbles, and we thank Ron for being here with us. And we've been learning a lot about pressure cleaning today, and it's not one of those. I personally I started selling pressure washers in 1983. 1984 was really when I hit my stride selling them in my retail paint store, and I do business with a company by the name of Mighty M. And Mighty M is an excellent manufacturer. Whoa, hello.
Just went away.
Yeah, just dropped right out. Hello.
You're still.
Wow.
I still hear something.
Yeah. I'll try another mic. Wow, how weird is that? Let me try this one. Okay, this is plugged into what? Number 3. All right. Hello. All right. We'll use this mic.
We're back.
We are back. How weird is that?
I don't know if we ever went away.
Yeah. But wow, look at that. Anyways, so I was doing business with a company by the name of Mighty M, and I really talk about learning a crash course. I was in my early 30s, and so it was quite an education. Learned a lot about pressure washers, how many gallons of water they push through there, and what kind of tips to use. And this is all before this, when everything was direct drive, and then they had the ones that were you can adjust the unloader, but there was of course the device for mixing your solvents, or not solvent, but the cleaner, the siphon for the cleaner and all that. But I learned a lot about pressure cleaning early on, and and I sold a lot of machines. So you had to learn a lot, baptism by fire, I guess, but that's good.
Yeah, I guess, it's interesting you say that, because that's pretty much how it was for me. I wanted to start a business. I wasn't necessarily, a pressure cleaning business, but I used to be in IT, had the opportunity to, get out of that business. Company I was with wanted to move me, and my wife and I love Florida, so we ended up staying here. Can you
fix board mics here in the studio?
I might be able to get the soldering iron out and go from there. So, looked around for different business opportunities and happened to run into the gentleman that started Magic Bubbles, and that's how I got involved in it. And much like you, Frank, I went to see and watch my truck being built at a place called Blast Off down in West Palm, and had an opportunity to work with those folks and understand how everything worked and why. So sometimes I felt like I was asking lots of stupid questions, but
there are no stupid questions.
That's right. There are no stupid questions.
Absolutely. So. And I used to drive my dad crazy as a kid growing up in a paint store, right? I would always, my dad would say to me, he would explain to customers, and I would always be at his elbow while he was explaining to customers the proper procedure for painting whatever it is their project was. And I would ask him later, why? Why do you use this and not that? And he goes, I don't know. It's just, if you do these things, it'll work. It's like, but I wanted to know why.
Yeah.
So he says, he introduced me to the label backs, right? This, the instructions.
This is why.
Yes, this is why. He said, when you have nothing to do, when you've already swept all the floors, cleaned all the machines and all that, read the labels. And then you'll know why.
That's awesome.
So now I know.
That's my father and his brothers, Uncle Joe and Uncle Bob, owned an Arco gas station and service station. So I grew up as a kid pumping gas in the summertime.
Okay.
Which back then, I guess, and I'll date myself again, but the gas I think was about 70 cents a gallon. So.
Oh. Yeah.
But
I had back in the. That was in the late 70s. It was in the late in the 70s. I sold. I had a Olds 98. Yeah, big Olds, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, my mom had that same car.
Right. It was a 60. It was a 60. I forget what year it was. 65 Olds.
Oh, okay.
Right. Four barrel carburetor. premium gas, 8
And
cylinders,
you get
right?
float around in the back of the thing.
Right. And the gas had shot up to 60 cents a gallon. And I said, I have to sell this car. Its gas is too expensive.
That's crazy when
Right.
you think about the gas now.
Right.
Very happy when it gets down to 250 a gallon, if it ever goes back there.
Right.
But yeah, it was fun and another opportunity to learn. I learned how to do brakes, but I think I was probably always asking why as well.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, it's like, how do you find anything out? And you probably do drive people crazy. I think my son caught that from me as well, because he works for a camp called Mad Science, and he was doing some work for them. And when he first started, he was always asking them questions, and they're like, driving them crazy. He's driving them crazy.
Right,
but how do you learn anything if you don't ask?
Exactly. Whoa, this mic is now working.
See, I don't even have to do anything. Just
isn't that weird though? That just kind of winked out on us.
Yeah, it is odd.
Yeah. Maybe it just circuit gets too warm or something.
I don't know. You said it was pretty warm in here when you got here.
It was over 80.
Yeah.
The morning crew just cranked up the heat this morning.
It must have been chilly in here.
It was. I forgot to set the heat,
Ah.
and so when they came in, whatever the outside temperature was probably nearly that.
Well, you were just trying to protect all the equipment in here.
Yes. Yes. There it is. Yes. We're going with that.
There you go.
So, very good. So you moved down here when?
I moved down here in 2012, at the end of 2012. The company I work for moved me down here.
Mm-hmm.
And then after about 4 years, they were consolidating operations in their central division, and they wanted me to move to Atlanta. And I and my wife were like, no, we want to stay here.
Hot Atlanta.
Yes. And I happen to have 29 years in the industry. So, I had enough time there to say, see ya. And
cool.
Yeah.
It's good that you can do that.
Yeah. And so that worked out well. And then I was looking for opportunities after that. And this is what I found. So
Very cool.
it's a great, I like to get out and meet people and talk to people. And this provides me with an opportunity.
A great vehicle for that. Yeah.
And then, it's always good to be able to provide a service that helps people maintain their pride and joy. I mean, people put a lot of money into their homes or into their second, their vacation home. And they want it to look good, and we help them do that. So it's, it's good all around.
Right. You get instant gratification because when you leave, that job is done right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, we have a lot of great ways to help people out.
Cool.
With respect to our membership program or the different discounts that we offer. So, if you're interested in pressure cleaning or regular pressure cleaning, whatever kind of service, give us a shout, and we'll be able to help you out.
Nice, nice, and so you've got one truck right now.
Yes,
but perhaps because you got St. Lucie and Martin County, if you get busy enough, there might be another truck.
There could be there.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll say there will be in the future. I don't have a date for that.
Right.
But right now, because of the truck I have the ability to put more staff on that truck. And what that allows me to do is to get more jobs done in a day. So it's a step in to getting another truck at some point.
Right. Then you got to staff up for that truck.
Correct.
Well, yeah.
At that point, there's, you would take some of the staff from the current truck, put them in the other truck, and go from there.
Right.
But, I think there's a lot of great opportunity in Martin County and St. Lucie County for a good pressure cleaner that's going to be there. It's going to back up the work they do and be around long term.
Yeah, that's very important. Very important. Give out your information and your website too, so they can find you on your web.
Yeah. So the website is magicbubbleswash.com. My email address is ron@magicbubbleswash.com. And again, the telephone number is 772-210-1173.
Okay. Any anecdotal stories that you can share, want to share? Anything humorous that comes to mind?
I was telling a quick story this morning at our meeting, when I first started the business, I got the truck. I I paid attention to how all that was being done. In addition to that, setting up the business, so finding an accountant and getting all the paperwork in order, and then finally scheduling a start date. When am I going to go do the first job, and hiring an employee on that fun stuff. So came across a great employee that was able to help me out for a while. And then we do our first job, and I remember the house. It was in Jupiter Country Club. Got that house taken care of, and as soon as we were done, I was like, okay, now what? And there's no more customers on the schedule, and just starting out a business and the advertising and everything. So my second job ever was my own house. So went to my own house and jumped on the roof and got the roof clean and the house wash and all that fun stuff. And so it worked out great. And
your house is clean and pristine?
Clean and pristine. That's
yes.
Correct. Yes. And then since then, like we talked about members in a short time, I have about 70 members now, plus a whole handful of recurring customers. And the difference between a membership and a recurring customer is just a preference on the customer's end. A membership is a monthly payment. Recurring customers get a slightly different discount.
They just pick up the phone whenever they want to see Ron.
Yeah, they just pick up, or they may have scheduled services. It's just not via the membership package. So they might just want to do their driveway every 6 months or something like that. So handful of those as well, and then a lot of commercial work. I mentioned this morning a few neighborhoods I do sidewalks for, both here and in both in Martin County and St. Lucie County. My crew is working on 8 apartment buildings. We're doing the roof for those right now. So definitely keeping us busy.
I guess so. Give out your contact information one more time.
Sure. The Magic Bubbles pressure cleaning telephone number is 772-210-1173. You reach us by email at ron@magicbubbleswash.com, and the website is magicbubbleswash.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ron. We appreciate you coming in, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Take care.